My name is Bobby, and through a warp in time, I have entered the strange and disturbing world of parallel time. Each one of us has a counterpart, but they are different because they have made different choices. On this night, I have discovered Parallel Time Bobby.
Old movies are boring. Black and white has no artistic merit, and the only Dark Shadows I know stars Johnny Depp.
He must die.
Now I'm gonna watch a remake and not even Google the original. I have pulled a Julia and killed Parallel Time Bobby. Now let's talk about the Parallel Time storyline on Dark Shadows, which are episodes 981 to 1060 and DVD volumes 19 through 21. Will this storyline show the signs of the show's demise, or will it be unparalleled in its excellence? It was groovy 1970, and Dark Shadows was in big trouble. Its current storyline about the Leviathans taking over the world was a disaster, and the ratings were plummeting. Also, creative producer Dan Curtis, who had always been the creative heart of Dark Shadows, was becoming less involved in the series and more focused on making the Dark Shadows movie, House of Dark Shadows. So the series needed a quick fix to get the ratings back on track. Their most successful storylines had been when they traveled back in time, so they decided to try a variation of that. And instead of going back in time, they would go to a parallel time, which is a time band running concurrently with our own. They would also go back to the old standby of borrowing ideas from Gothic literature, this time using Rebecca and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
The first several weeks of the storyline were filmed concurrently with the filming of House of Dark Shadows. The movie used the show's cast and crew, so the majority of the show's main characters had to be temporarily written out of the series so that the actors were free to make the movie, leaving the popular characters Quentin and Angelique and the new character Dr. Cyrus Longworth to hold the fort.
Because of the nature of this storyline, they were also using more complicated special effects than ever before. Like other soaps of the era, Dark Shadows was filmed straight through like a live show. The process was called live on tape.
But because of the Jekyll and Hyde transformations and the parallel time room, they had to film certain scenes in advance and edit them in later. They also had scenes where one actor was playing two characters within the same scene, so they would film one part beforehand and then chroma key it in while they were live on tape.
But by this time, complicated special effects and breaking new ground was just another day on the set of Dark Shadows.
In the east wing of Collinwood, there's a room that acts as a time warp between this time and parallel time. Barnabas, hoping that it might cure his vampirism, enters into the world of parallel time. However, he is captured by the alcoholic writer Will Loomis and forced to tell his life story for Will's new book. The master of Collinwood, Quentin, comes home with his new bride Maggie. I see London, I see France. But the house and all of its occupants are still dominated by the memory of his late wife Angelique. Dr. Cyrus Longworth is working on an experiment to separate the good and evil in man, and as a result, he transforms into John Yeager, a man of arrogance and violence. Angelique's twin sister Alexis comes to Collinwood, but when she goes to see her dead sister's body, Angelique becomes alive. She takes Alexis's place at Collinwood and is determined to find out who murdered her. Barnabas escapes from Will Loomis's clutches and tries to save the inhabitants of Collinwood from the evil of Angelique.
Up until this point, Dan Curtis constantly rolled the dice with Dark Shadows. Let's bring a vampire on. How about we go back in time? So the series was constantly evolving. But here, he just wants the ratings to go back to normal. So they decided to play it safe and give the viewers what they thought they would like. And for the most part, it works. The story's opening leaves you wondering, who was this mysterious Angelique? So it has this great air of gothic mystery, very reminiscent of the earlier episodes. Also, instead of bringing on a new character, this storyline focuses on the main Dark Shadows cast. But because it's parallel time, Each one has something new to play.
However, they also subvert your expectations. In regular time, Willie Loomis freed Barnabas from his chain coffin. But here, Will traps Barnabas in his coffin. Unfortunately, after only a few episodes in, almost everybody leaves to go make House of Dark Shadows. So a lot of the plot, like Will capturing Barnabas and some of the Angelique stuff, which also involved Maggie and Hoffman, has to go on hold because the characters aren't there.
Aunt Hannah, where is Hoffman? I've been afraid to ask at the house, afraid that I'd give myself away. I hear that Quentin decided that it was time she had a vacation. I must get her back as soon as possible. Could you imagine not knowing what's going on behind the scenes and suddenly all the characters go on vacation? They do have some plot to get them through this period, but not enough. And there's a good 10-12 episodes when they're doing the Ghost of Damien Edwards and some of the Jekyll and Hyde stuff, and you could absolutely tell it's filler. They're trying to stall until everyone gets back. And it's hard to stay interested because you know what they're doing. However, once everyone does get back, they make up for it, and the story kicks into high gear. Josette and I were to marry. Why didn't you make her as you are? I am waiting, Mr. Collins! I hate myself for admitting that I tried. Fate has always treated me terribly. Fate was against me the night that you found me. No, Will! I will not bow to fate any longer! There are twists and turns, there's touches of humor, and they make the most of Collinwood by exploring a lot of its rooms. It's not as epic as the 1897 or the 1795 storyline, but it's good Dark Shadows storytelling. Also making the storyline good are the characters. Angelique. Angelique became something of a legend in her own time. A legend that would be very difficult for anyone to live with. This storyline makes the most of the Dark Shadows actors, except when they were making the movie. And if you love Laura Parker as Angelique, hang on to your voodoo doll, because this, along with 1795, is her best storyline. When the story opens, she's already dead. But we see her portrait hanging in her room. We hear her theme music, Ode to Angelique. And remember her past performances. So just like the characters, we still feel her presence in Collinwood. When Laura Parker first physically enters the story, she's playing Angelique's twin sister Alexis. She plays Alexis more vulnerably, but every so often she'll say a word or give a look that makes you think, is this really Alexis or is this Angelique? The mystery works well, and you don't know for sure until Alexis goes to Angelique's grave. I don't know what your secret was, Angelique, or why you look like you did in life. But Quentin and Cyrus are right. Your body must be destroyed. My dear Alexis, you are so right. Someone must be destroyed. But it won't be me. It will be you. This can't be happening. You're dead. You're dead. Now you will take my place in this coffin, and I will take yours at Collinwood.
What a ghoulishly groovy intro for this iconic Dark Shadows character. Angelique is brought back to life through an experiment by her father, Timothy Stokes. However, unlike the regular time Angelique, who's always motivated by her love for Barney, the camera really does add 10 pounds. This Angelique is strictly out to get revenge over the one who murdered her. She loves her son, but other than him, she doesn't care who she has to kill or torment in order to achieve her goal. It's Angelique at her most evil, and I love it.
In a sense, Laura Parker plays three roles. Alexis, Angelique, and Angelique pretending to be Alexis. And so does Grayson Hall, who plays Hoffman the housekeeper, Julia Hoffman, and Julia pretending to be Hoffman the housekeeper.
Hoffman is Collinwood's head housekeeper and is based off of Mrs. Danvers in Rebecca. Hoffman is devoted to Angelique, and while she's usually sullen, when she's talking with or even just about Angelique, she takes on this girlish quality where you just know she's in love with her. Before Dark Shadows, Grayson had got an Oscar nomination for playing the repressed lesbian Miss Fellows in Night of the Iguana, so she's an expert at this form of implication. Even before Angelique comes back, Hoffman resents the new Mrs. Collins and passive-aggressively torments her, and always with a cute little smile afterwards.
Mrs. Collins, it's almost dinner time. I assume you're going to change. Hoffman discovers that Barnabas is a vampire and is about to drive a stake through his heart. But then our Julia comes in and kills her. Just like with Angelique, we knew this character was coming, but what a thrilling entrance. It's typical Julia. She's helping Barnabas by pretending to be Hoffman to find out information from Angelique. However, they go deeper into Julia's devotion to Barnabas, because when Julia gets captured, she begins to wonder just how devoted is Barnabas to her.
Barnabas! Please find me, Barnabas! I must stay awake! It's my only hope!
Barnabas, why do you look so sad? Because of Julia. You've done everything you could to find her. She's probably dead. Would you rather stay in this time band? It would make no difference if I did. We Dark Shadows fans might like to joke about Grayson's acting, but when she's having that dream, your heart breaks for her. Because she couldn't live without Barnabas, but she believes that Barnabas could live without her. Unfortunately, the one I find to be a little less than fantastic in this storyline is actually Barnabas. Up until this point, each storyline gave Jonathan Frid a new aspect of Barnabas to play. First, he was the evil vampire. Then, it showed how he became a vampire. Then he was cured. Then he became the hero of the show. Then he became the vampire hero. Then he goes under the power of the Leviathans and becomes evil under their influence. And fans complained about this. So in the spirit of playing it safe, they keep Barnabas as the reluctant vampire and Collins family superhero. And they don't take the character in any new directions. Jonathan Frid does a fine job, but we've seen it before. And we'll see it again throughout the rest of the series.
While Barnabas loses some bite, Louis Edmonds finally gets to show off again as Roger Collins. When Dark Shadows began, Roger was a sarcastic, arrogant jerk, so he was my favorite character. He also had a dark side, and originally he was the one who had killed Bill Malloy, and Roger was going to be killed off. But like what happened with Barnabas, the character was working, so they changed the plan. And as the show focused more and more on the spooks, they melded Roger out into something of a pompous, hard-drinking Mr. Brady. But this Roger is a return to the original vision.
Very well, I shall be crystal clear. Today, if your husband hasn't told you, is the anniversary of his marriage to Angelique. That it has affected him, I have no doubt. Am I still being obscure? And to further alleviate any other anxieties you may have about your husband, I don't think he'll be back tonight. Pleasant dreams. He's the funniest and best-dressed psychopath you're ever going to meet. Along with the characters making the storyline great, so does the way it integrates its literary sources. As with most Dark Shadow storylines, the writers borrow ideas from other sources. This time, from Daphne du Maurier's novel, Rebecca, and from Alfred Hitchcock's movie version, and from Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and the subsequent movie versions.
Rebecca is a gothic novel about a girl who marries the wealthy Maxim de Winter. They go back to his mansion in Manderley, and everyone, especially the housekeeper Mrs. Danvers, is still dominated by the memory of Maxim's late wife Rebecca. Dark Shadows had all the ingredients for the story. The tone of gothic romance. Collinwood makes a perfect substitute for Manderley. Grayson is great at doing the Judith Anderson role, and if anyone could fill in for the ever-the-cad George Sanders, Louis Edmonds can. So they hit all the marks, but then they take the story in a new direction. In Rebecca, the great reveal is that Rebecca is really a rotten person. There's such build-up to this character, I always found that to be a little disappointing. But in Dark Shadows, they have Angelique be this supernatural witch with this vicious plot. So your expectations of this Collinsport living legend type of character are fulfilled.
For Jekyll and Hyde, they basically have Dr. Cyrus Longworth do the Dr. Jekyll routine. He drinks the potion, becomes the evil John Yeager, and then causes problems for everyone. It's your standard Jekyll and Hyde story, and they don't do anything especially creative with it. Also, in the book, the section that deals with Dr. Jekyll is actually very short, and when you stretch it out, like you have to do for a soap opera, it becomes very repetitive, and it's not the top-notch storytelling that the Rebecca adaptation is.
With the bulk of the cast being gone, the storyline had a rough start with the audience. But once everyone came back, the ratings started to stabilize. But the glory days of 20 million viewers would never be seen again. Jonathan Frid eventually became bored playing Barnabas, and to keep him on the show, the writers had to create a new character for him to play, Bramwell Collins.
When I began this review, I asked, will the storyline show the signs of the show's demise, or will it be unparalleled in its excellence? The answer is both. Things like Dan Curtis losing interest in the show, and them taking less creative chances, both with storytelling and with the character Barnabas, will eventually take its toll, but it hasn't negatively affected the series yet. So I give it 3.5 passive-aggressive housekeepers out of 4. Thank you for watching Dusty Old Movies, and have an unparalleled day.